welcome to the Beyond Quirks podcast. My name's Johnny. I'm from Johnny Bentley 360 Photography. I am a professional photographer and have been for roughly around 4 to 5 years. I've always been into photography, started off very young, but professionally got into it, I would say around 5 years, where I started in 360 photography, which is like the creative 360 cameras, tiny planets, that sort of thing. And then during the lockdown, the great lockdown of the world, I started getting into portrait photography, meeting people, obviously safe in the lockdown, but and taking portrait photography and stuff. And then over a year ago, we had our own studio here at Beyond Quirks that we've created and meet with new models, families, portraits, everything like that. We wanted to bring this podcast here to sort of have another avenue and talk to you, meet friends, meet people and create a community around our sort of studio and things. I'd also like to introduce my partner in crime here, Gemma.
So I'm predominantly known as Gemma Lee Photography these days, here at Beyond Quirks. But way before that, I did a lot of modelling and I was kind of in the industry for a while. So I've been on both sides of the camera, on and off for about 15, 20 years now. So I've got quite a bit of knowledge that I bring to the scope, and I've kind of helped you learn some new skills as well, and we've kind of developed and grown, and we thought we'd kind of get on here and chat to people and pass on our knowledge.
So the podcast, obviously this is our first episode, so welcome, thank you for listening. We're going to have a topic today discussing Gemma and some of the things that she has to overcome as being a model in the past. Going forward, we are looking at kind of being creative and introducing other ideas that maybe aren't talked about a lot in the industry. So from models' perspective, photographers, as well as like makeup artists, and just generally in the industry. So stuff like being plus size in the industry, being disabled in the industry, and like I said, how we overcome them and discuss them sort of as a community and stuff. So that's kind of the idea of the podcast. So we're hoping to bring in other interview people, introduce people, have just generally open conversations.
And even kind of bringing in brands and people that you'd want to hear from. So if you want us to interview a particular person, just let us know and we'll kind of reach out to them and see if they're interested as well.
And obviously if there's any topics or anything that you'd be interested in as well, please let us know in the comments section below. So first of all, we'll start off with a bit of an interview with Gemma, just because she's had much more, not experience, but a much more fun-filled life in the model industry. And
around a few years,
yes, I've been in the industry. So do you want to maybe start from the beginning? What interests you, what got you into it in the first place?
So I predominantly started out as a performer, as a child. So I was doing lots and lots of productions and stuff, and then kind of photography and doing modelling stuff comes with that because people see you doing productions. Like, oh, I'd like to do photo, and it kind of grew and developed. It was more on the fashion side originally because I was quite skinny, but I had disabilities back then as well, and there wasn't a lot of scope for what I could do. I got very disheartened, kind of moved away from it all, and then when I came back, I was doing it on my terms, and then I kind of became my own entity, I guess. I even had a stage name that was known as Lethal Gem, and I kind of learned to accept, because by that point I'd gained weight because of all the meds they put me on. Something that isn't talked about is we lost disabilities. You see a lot of us who are plus size, we're usually being put on steroids and similar things that add to that. So I got bigger and bigger, and then I was like, well, how do I navigate through that industry? And I became a plus size model and a plus size performer. And then I realised there wasn't a lot of photographers who wanted to shoot the bigger sizes, so I started learning that side.
Okay. So
sorry, that was a lot.
No. It's good to sort of. When you mention about, obviously you put on weight and you sort of did you find that work sort of dropped out, or did you have to go via different things?
I had to find different channels and different avenues. So I 15, 16 years ago now. Wow.
Showing your age.
I went to a photo shoot for pin-up models.
Okay.
And there was another lady who was a similar size to me. And I'd only done this for myself. It wasn't a paid gig. It was just going and turning up and trying this day. And she was like, well, you do know there is a market for that still. Because at the time I was still very much like, well, I'm too big for this now.
Okay.
And it was more to kind of regain a bit of my self-identity and do the shoot. She inspired me. She was also a burlesque performer. She's like, you do know you could do this as well. And I was like, well, I can't do any of these things anymore because I'm fat. That's what I thought.
Okay. Yeah.
Your brain goes to those places. And I mean, I'd give a shout out to her and I'd love to interview her. Please say you're watching. Heather Sweet, if you'd ever come and talk to us, that'd be amazing. She really inspired me, and from there, I kind of made it my actual job.
Okay. So I'll go two sides to this. Give me some of your positives you've had being either disabled or plus size.
I've had quite a few people saying that I've inspired them.
Okay.
I have beautiful messages on fan pages, even pages I don't really use anymore. I still log in every now and again.
Just to give you a bit of context, Gemma's been, you've been on and off retired for the last sort of 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You've not really done much since lockdown.
Post-lockdown, my health degraded in lockdown, so I wasn't able to do as much, and then I got pregnant. So being a mum changes things, and having the time to kind of do all that's been really difficult. But I still kind of check in with people, and I know there's a lot of people who've stepped into the industry just because they kind of seen what I can do, and that it is capable for someone with disabilities or someone who's plus size.
And I know from personal experience from working with you at events and stuff, some people now see you as a bit of a mama figure anyway, and you help them in the industry and stuff.
They come for advice and kind of guidance, and they want my knowledge, and that's really nice, because for a long time I was the one seeking the advice and knowledge, and for people to come to me, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm doing things right then.
Yeah. It's always good when people ask for your advice and stuff like that. In that case then, what would you say are some of the negatives you've had? Now, this is not going to be a bashing session, but what would you say?
I won't say it again because it's rude too, but I have had photographers tell me that I'm too fat, or the biggest one I've had in recent years is I have quite a lot of tattoos, and being fat and tattooed is kind of frowned upon, because if they want a plus size model, they usually want someone who's quite clean cut, and they usually want a plus size model, especially for brands, with a flat stomach. Now, anyone who is plus size knows that's not really the case most of the time.
It's the odd rarity, isn't it?
Yeah, so when you look at big billboards of plus size models and they have these flat stomachs, a lot of the time that's photoshopped. Whereas I tend to work with people who won't do that to me, because I'm kind of trying to embrace all my ups and bumps. Another negative has literally been that I'm too old. The industry is more geared to kind of 25 and under.
Yeah.
But plus size models that I've seen and worked with in years are usually over 30.
Yeah. And you're slightly older than that now, aren't you? It's like, but still beautiful as ever, obviously. So obviously, I've noticed it as a photographer myself, is a lot of plus size people want to work with myself because I'm 6'7", so they always joke that I always get the selfie angles.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is a thing with a lot of photographers shooting from the ground up. I know it's a very common fashion pose, but it isn't the most flattering for plus size people.
So when you kind of learn photography, a lot of photographers go off what they can find online on like Pinterest and websites and stuff, and they're the poses and styles where they shoot from that lower level that they show you on all these networks, and they don't realise that only works in the fashion industry. I think if you're over like a size 14, 16, kind of switch it up, use different angles. The higher the angle, the more flattering it's going to be for your shape, and learn how to pose differently. That's one of the things I had to learn. Yeah. So when I became a bigger size, the poses I used to do wouldn't translate over very well. I had to learn to hold myself differently.
I've also noticed with, especially where you mentioned pin-up before, pin-up poses aren't always easy or flattering.
No, and
initially,
no,
it's, yeah.
And you have to explain to people, especially on a photographer front, is please understand that it doesn't feel nice, it doesn't feel sexy, but look at the picture.
Yeah. So just going back, I know we've mentioned the plus size and stuff. You've obviously worked with a lot of brands, a lot of sort of thingy. We are hoping to have some of these brands come on, and you'll get to meet them yourselves and what their sort of vision and passion is about and stuff. Obviously, kind of going back to some of the disabilities, is what do you feel as though hampers you the most in the industry with your disabilities?
Well, more so. So when I was pregnant, I had a lot of photographers who knew me who wanted to shoot me with the bump,
Yeah.
which is kind of a thing. And then they were contacting me to go to these studios, and none of them I could get in because I was on a walking frame at this point. Both my hips had gone. I was quite bad because I already have problems with those parts of my body. But in pregnancy, it puts more pressure.
Yeah.
And trying to explain to them, look, I can't do stairs. And they're telling me to go to a mill that's miles out of the scope, so I need to get a taxi there anyway. And then I need to try and go up 3-4 flights of stairs before I've even got to the photo shoot. A lot of people don't consider simple things like that. It's one of the reasons that we got this space, was it was a ground floor, and then if I do have bad days, I can still shoot, and it also makes it accessible for other people who are disabled. So I found there's a massive gap in that. And even on like my good days, a lot of studios I still couldn't access and be in.
Mm. So, I mean, that's something that we are going to discuss in the next episode, is sort of how us as photographers and studios can be more accommodating for, not able-bodied people as well as, general sort of public. But it's more individually to you. Obviously, you said you're a performer. You've done a lot of burlesque and comparing and stuff. I know you don't. Yeah, it's we're talking 3 or 4 years ago at least. But it's one of them. Is how would you feel? Do you feel as though you'd missed out on work because you had to have things put in place because of your disabilities and stuff?
Yeah, so depending on the promoter, I mean, I've been really lucky, I've worked with some amazing ones over the years, but there are some promoters who didn't understand that I needed a carer on hand in case I had a turn. Some didn't understand when I said, look, I can't get on your stage because there were several steps up to it, and I had to kind of learn how to navigate venues when I got there, because a lot of the time you don't know what it's going to look like, and sometimes I've turned up and it's like, well, the stage is half a mile that way, but you want me to introduce here. How am I physically doing that and getting over there?
Yeah. I can see how that would be a factor. It's fine.
When it came to performing and comparing, there's not as many photos as there should be. Because I spent a lot of time studying the audience, and everyone thought it was part of the act that I integrated. It's not. It's because half the time I couldn't actually physically get on the stage, so it kind of became like a trait of mine. And everyone thought it was part of the gimmick, but it's how I worked around things.
I know. I mean, we had to do exactly the same because Gemma's been doing the odd comparing with our sort of our couple of friends that we help with Comic Cons and doing like the stage sort of comparing and things. With relating to that, you had to sort of sit to the side at a chair as well as you're comparing, or on a speaker, which you got told off at one point for sitting on the speaker. But it's things like that that a lot of people don't realise. It's quite common in the industry, and personally, from working with a lot of models, it surprises me how many people have some form of disability.
I mean, it's not just disabilities. I found a lot of people in the industry are kind of neurodivergent, and they think differently, and they need things done in different ways. So you have to be kind of more consciously aware of that than they used to be. I think, especially during lockdown, people kind of keyed more into that side of themselves.
I think it's become more known anyway in the general world.
But I think lockdown was definitely more of a focus because people were using things like TikTok and talking openly about it for the first time in years. So now people are like, yeah, I am, and what? Whereas before, they used to try hide it in masks. So I think it's easier now than it was.
Would you say that that's hampered people, though? Or is it because it's more known people are wanting to tick boxes? It's, I suppose, a bit controversial.
Yes and no. There's some people who I would say kind of tick boxes, but now it's more acceptable to kind of be yourself. I mean, we worked with a brand a while ago, and there's one of the members of staff is autistic. Now, on an onset, you wouldn't know that, but working with them closely, you see those traits. Whereas back in the day, they probably would have tried to mask it because it wouldn't have been accepted.
Yeah, they wouldn't have probably been as open and sort of say, oh, sorry about this, I'm autistic. Not that you need to say that, but
no, I mean, they literally have t-shirts that say it now,
yes,
and they play on it and have a laugh with it, and I love them to pieces for it. But I think if that had been 10 years down the line, and, back in the day, it wouldn't have been as a thing that's accepted and kind of they can joke about it and just kind of carry on.
I also think going on that is plus size become a lot more accepted.
Definitely.
There's a lot more brands and campaigns that I see in everyday life using, I mean, was it, I hate to use the word, but was it Boots or Dove that did the campaign ages ago.
Yeah, Dove did a campaign
where it was real life bodies, wasn't it? And then
so they did an online campaign where people applied to take part in it.
Yeah.
But then again, it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
Because they still vetted and they didn't want anyone who looked too obviously fat. They were still.
Okay. Yeah.
They were still,
I mean, we're not here to flag them off. No, it's like.
But it was discussed quite openly on a lot of platforms that they still boxed in and said, right, we want one between this size and this size, and they were still very much kind of, you've got to be this. The biggest one I think for me was Jean-Paul Gaultier years ago now.
Okay.
He had a plus size model who is bigger size than me, walked down the catwalk in lingerie.
Oh, okay. I've not seen that myself, but yeah.
Well, I obviously as a plus size person, I love seeing that in fashion. I still love fashion, even though a lot of it I can't get in. I still watch a lot of it. And that was really inspiring, and that kind of catapulted that person from being just an everyday person to now a full-time model. They now live in America, they do it as a living, and no one really complains about their size because they've just accepted them as a person.
Okay. But like, I mean, that's a nice anecdote, I suppose. But yeah, it's I've not seen that before. But I mean, like most recently, there's a lot of brands that we've seen. You know, some of the alternative ones now are doing a full bigger sizes and plus size and stuff like that. Although we did have an issue with one shop, didn't we, quite recently going into they've got rid of the plus size range.
So they don't have a plus size section anymore. I'm just above what is the common fashion plus size, which is what, 22, 24 now.
Yeah.
And then said, well, we do go up to a 22 in everything. And I'm like, well.
So they've expanded everything.
All of the range goes up.
But they've got rid of the plus size range.
Anything above a 22.
Yeah. So it's that very fine line. It's kind of alienated you from going to that shop.
Yeah, and I love that shop as well.
But it's then expanded the general publication, I suppose. It's like,
so it's done. They've done it based on this big test they did, and the people who gained weight in lockdown, who were size 18, 16, kind of that size range, have gone up. A lot of people gain weight, so they're doing it to fit kind of the standard across the board. But then anyone who's above that point hasn't even been calculated.
Yeah. Whereas I don't think for men there's been much difference.
No, well,
there's been a lot of shops that have been the same. I mean, we always joke about Big and Tall, there's sort of like Giacomo, different things like that. They've been around for years.
But it's more accepting for a man to be overweight than it is a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
And it has always been the case. Even if you look back to kind of the 1940s and 50s, you saw these slim, slender women, and the men who were in their suits in the pictures are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And no one ever kind of pointed that out and complained about it. Yeah. So I get very angry sometimes when I see you getting some really cool stuff, because for men, there's more options.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of my items, especially when I was at my biggest, were bespoke.
I was going to say, you've had to end up getting a lot of handmade stuff or from designers, haven't you, themselves to make them for you. Interesting sort of topic, and it's definitely something I think, especially with the brands and stuff, that we could definitely discuss in future sort of things.
I'd love to kind of bring some of the people I've worked with over the years.
Yeah.
Because their viewpoints are so different from each other's, even though they all work in plus size. They're all from different sides of that industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything you kind of like to discuss regarding being a plus size gentleman?
Well, obviously, I'm not a model. I'll say that outright. I've posed pictures for you, but more test shots and stuff.
Have you received any negativity from people?
I've not received many negativity. No, I mean, we did do a bit during lockdown. I did have a stint on TikTok, like probably a lot of people did. Okay. And I did get the odd little comment, but you expect that on social media sites.
Yeah,
there's always that troll or that one person that's going to say things. But then I had a lot of positive sort of comments. I mean, I'm not too unashamed of my body. I know I'm a big guy, but because I'm so tall, I hold the weight quite well. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd look weird being as tall as I am and really skinny.
I've had people say to me, obviously with my height, that I don't look like I'm the size I am.
Yeah.
And they don't believe me.
Yeah.
And I think you probably have the same.
Yes. It's something definitely. But then, just because I'm tall means I still need to get plus size items. But then I've had the issue with, as a guy, a lot of plus size items are wide, not long.
Same with women's clothes.
Yeah, so and it sounds awful, but they expect people to be who are fat really short, and it's like
Well,
so.
like I haven't worn jeans or fitted pants for a very long time because they're always too short.
I was going to say it's leggings or dresses, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty
sort
much.
Of, yeah. But it's just, it's one of them that I think the industry still needs to pick up with, especially.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, but the standard sizing charts where they kind of make their clothes from are based on the old 1940s and 50s patterns in a lot of companies still, believe it or not. So the standard size ranging, depending on where you get from as well, because America's quite fast on the mark.
Yes.
So they changed and they developed with kind of the world, and a lot of the patterns and kind of baseline sizing from there, you're looking at the 90s. See, this random knowledge, I don't need to know this, but I love fashion and I love knowing all this. So some brands, it will go up to, say, a size 6XL, they will mark it from the size 1XL and just push up every so many inches to make it that size. Whereas American brands, they don't just push up by inches, they do it by dress size rather than, so they do an equation to work it out.
And you've said this to me before, actually, Jana, regarding certain brands that you have worked with, that they change the shape of it. They've made custom outfits because it's more flattering on you.
Yeah, so
it's like, I know, me and Jem have been together a few years now, and I know that Jem suits like the 50s style dresses that sort of pop out, but I've also never seen you in, like, say, a fishtail dress. But I know that they don't tend to be flattering for the plus size because they suck all the wrong bits in, don't they? It sounds awful, but
I've wore fishtail dresses and similar for companies that I've worked with in the past, and I personally don't feel comfortable in them. And there's some people who wear them and they embrace, because what happens with those cuts is they highlight the extra bumps, and it depends where you are mentally whether you want to show off those extra bumps. I prefer the 50s that scope out because it kind of gives me a nice figure, and it hides all the sins. And that's why I like it.
We're all about hiding the sins, but not masking.
But you get quite clever at kind of dressing for your size, and you know what's going to work and what doesn't. So one of the brands that I worked with for years, and I still love, and I still get things from, even though I'm not in the industry anymore, is she doesn't just tail for the plus size. She is plus size herself, which makes a difference. But what you find with a lot of other companies is they'll just size up, whereas as she sizes up, she brings in other parts.
So it fits.
So it
the right bits, I think
it's hard to explain.
No, I get it, and I'm thinking that she's on one of the plans that hopefully we'll get to actually chat, and she's got an amazing brain, is all I would say, sort of thing, and the way her mind thinks and stuff is awesome. But going on that, I think taking it back to our photography side is, I feel as though we work with a lot of plus size people.
Yeah, we do.
Because
they feel more comfortable with people who are.
Feel more comfortable. We know how to pose and we know how to work with them, and I think they're more comfortable in just being themselves, because our sort of photography is, yes, we work with brands and fashion and that sort of stuff, but we do tend to more. We're trying to be more casual and more fun and enjoy yourself while you're here shooting.
Although we did have a problem, we had a brand contacted us and they wanted models under a certain size range, and trying to find them was difficult.
Yes, because a lot of our contacts are with the plus size. I mean, we did manage to, and we had a very successful shoot, and we were really happy with the images, but it was one of them that, trying to find what size 6 to 8, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of.
So, I don't know if you know why it would be that size range.
That's the standard size.
Yeah. So, like, when a new brand is launching in the fashion industry, the sample sizes are usually between a size 6 to a size 10, because it's cheaper for the samples. That's the only reason.
I'd like to do some research on statistics, because I bet the average across, say, the UK, never mind the world, would probably be more like 10 to 12, isn't it?
Oh, no, post-lockdown, the standard size now is between size 12 to 16 on average for the size of women. I only know this because someone posted it on TikTok, because they were on
Did you fact check this on TikTok?
No, I really wanted to, but they literally went on a rant because they couldn't get the clothes they wanted anymore.
Okay.
Because the company that she was going to only did the small ends, and she's like, no one is in that small end anymore. We are all extreme differences. I mean, there's people post-lockdown who are even smaller than that, who lost weight during lockdown because they trained really hard and trying to be fit and keep themselves healthy. So I've got friends who were plus size who are going, my clothes don't fit me anymore. Are you this size? Do you want some stuff? Because they lost loads of weight. So there's two ends of the scale.
I was going to say, to be fair, that sounds like you at one point. Didn't you get rid of a load of stuff, and then obviously during the pregnancy, she got on weight? Yeah.
I dropped down several sizes, and I dropped down to a size that I could go to most fashion stores. Yeah. And then I got pregnant, and it came all back with some extra. So I didn't have the clothes there because I decided I don't need them anymore. I lost all this weight, and yeah, never mind.
So now we don't get rid of clothes in our household.
No, I have sizes from the bottom to the top.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, that's. We'll sort of look at wrapping it up there. It's kind of been. Went different than how I expected because it was meant to be more about you.
I know, and I turned the table then.
Yes, yeah. But I hope you sort of enjoyed listening, and this is the sort of conversation we want to sort of have going forward. I mean, future episodes, like I said, we'll probably try and pinpoint a certain subject.
Yeah, so obviously we want to look kind of accessibility and actually discuss that openly and talk about the different kind of places that you can get info from and what you can do. Yeah. And also,
we're also like model safety, getting into the industry a little. I mean, we're not agencies, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, burnout, we're hoping to sort of actually have a discussion with quite a high profile model that we know of.
Who basically burns the candle at both ends
to
make a living out of the industry.
And it's one of them that it's a very serious sort of subject. So we kind of want.
Some people don't really discuss how hard you have to work. I mean, on more than one occasion, I ended up in hospital because I'd done 3 gigs in a row and then done shoots during the day, and you have to learn.
And we definitely want to touch on the subjects that people don't talk about, but at the same time, we want it to be quite heartfelt and fun. Not that we're going to make mockery of the tough subjects.
What you want to know.
Yes. But rather than us just talking about, we've got this camera, we use this setting, and this is our studio, we wanted it more personal about what we do.
There's loads. If you are interested in kind of finding out about kit and lights and stuff, there is so many podcasts and platforms for that.
I mean, we might do an episode where we show you our kit and show you the backgrounds and exactly how we do it. But that's what I'm saying. We didn't want to be all about that. It's all about more the industry and what we can bring and what you guys can bring and stuff like that. So thank you again. I do the corny. Like, subscribe, comment, but please, honestly, it helps us. We're just starting out.
We're kind of new to this.
But we are all on social media across like Instagram, Facebook, all the usual.
On Quirks.
Yes.
You can find us even on TikTok, although we don't post on there as much as we should.
Just to let our listeners know, Gemma was pointing to the sign that's behind us on our video camera. But it's one of them that, be on Quirks on any social. Like, comment, DM us, we'll reply personally. We're pretty good sort of, we want to get to know you.
We're not going to have bots, we're not going to have staff, it's us. If you're talking to us, and if you particularly feel that you don't want to really talk to a man or a woman or whatever, you can literally address it to one of us and you'll get a response from the one you want to talk to.
We also have on Facebook, we have our Beyond Quirks group.
Yep.
So if you wanted to join more of it's a public group, but it's more of a private group that we're trying to set up our small community. I would advise sort of doing it, don't get me wrong, anywhere in the world, but we are based in the UK, in Manchester, so obviously we use that for upcoming shoots, upcoming things and stuff like that you might be interested in. So just bear that in mind when grouping, but we want to hear your ideas for the sort of...
And we also do in the group, and we do vote in like what you want to see from us and things, so it can kind of be part of you engaging with us a bit more as well.
So we'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening to episode 1. Okay.
Yes.